The event decomposition technique is another way to identify use cases. It's considered to be more comprehensive and a lot more complete as a technique, meaning there are more guidelines to follow for helping you to identify use cases. First of all, the key is to identify all the events that occur to which the system must respond to. So instead of focusing on what users need to do or what goals they have in mind, you focus on what goes on in the business environment. What goes on in the business environment and around the end users that cause them to need to do some work, basically. So it's taking a step back, closer to the environment, to think about what goes on that causes the system to be needed or to respond to. And then for each event you identify, you name a use case. Again, using the verb noun technique that describes what the system does when the event occurs. So an event is something that occurs at a specific time and place. It can be described, and it must be remembered by the system as well. That's just an example of defining what an event is. And then a use case is what the system needs to do when it discovers an event has occurred. Here, I'm giving an example of a charge account processing system. Here, we try to show how external events occurring in the environment or in the business environment, temporal events, as you can see inside this green bubble, occurring inside the system. And in either case, they trigger the need for system processing, which would be eventually a use case. So external events, as you can see here in the yellow, the yellow side, or this is basically outside in the external environment of the system. So external events, for example, in a charge processing system might be something like a customer is paying a bill or pays a bill, or customer maybe sends a bill in or goes online and says, hey, I want to pay my bill by simply clicking on Pay Now button on the website. So we identified that as something external that happens outside of the system, and the system has to be designed to respond to that event. So what do they do in terms of a use case? The system needs to record a payment, for that one event. Another external event might be also a customer actually makes a charge. Okay. So when they make a charge, what does the system need to do? The system, in this case, need to process a charge. So think about it. Customer makes a charge. It could be a use case that was identified based on a user goal technique. So that's a a use case where a customer wants to use the system to make a charge. And as a response to this use case, now a system must respond in terms of an event decomposition where a system will process a charge. So processing a charge in this case becomes also another use case. Okay. A customer also might move or change his address or information. For example, a customer might, change his address or change his last name. So what the system need to do is in responding to this external event is a use case called maintain customer data. And all these use cases are named verb noun just the same way you would name the user goal technique use cases. Now, the other type of events is called temporal events. And temporal events are events that occurred based on reaching some point in time. It might be a fixed point in time, like 8 o'clock in the morning, or the end of every week, the end of every month, or it might be a point in time based on something relative. For example, the bill is due on the 15th of every month. 6 days has gone by without receiving a payment or paying that bill. So it's time now to do something based on that relative passage of time. As you can see on the graph here, here's some examples of this charge account processing system. First of all, it might be time maybe to send monthly or send out monthly statements. This might occur the end of the month, or however they define it, reaching that point in time. And when you reach that point in time, the system should produce monthly statements. Another would be to send late notices. Again, 6 days or 4 days or 3 days has gone by with no payments received, causing the system to produce or send late notices to those customers. Another one would be it's time to send end of week summary reports, for example. Okay. So every week they want to see what's going on with collections. So it's time to produce the summary reports. So the use case name would be produce summary reports. So this is the event decomposition technique that helps you identify external events and temporal events and systematically go through and determine what goes on, what point in time are reached, and what external events occurred that caused the system to respond to. And then for each one of those events that was uncovered or discovered by the system, we name a use case that must respond to. Thank you.